I have one.
Fisheye?
I have the original with the MK1 fisheye. Dude, it's so sick.
Balance like I used to.
That's what happens though when you stop. That's why it's scary.
But I called and they had the real hold.
I'll do another coffee. I like do like just a black coffee from their little espresso.
They had your info?
Yeah.
We were able to combine some of how we'd done stuff in the past. You know, our last film, we shot at NASA, you know, because that's where the movie was set, and we couldn't afford to replicate that with sets. So we kind of wanted to stay true to our roots, but then, you know, we weren't going to be able to shoot in RIM's engineering department for a litany of reasons, and so we needed to be able to construct that somewhere. We shot most of the film in Hamilton, and a lot of the film was shot out of an old steel factory that's still there. So, you know, it had sort of the guts of the building and the skeleton, and our production designer, Adam Belanger, and his team kind of were able to turn that place into the engineering department or the sales floor or the warehouse, using kind of pre-existing locations and then just dressing them to match the spaces that we were trying to emulate.
Doing a lot of digging, trying to find like any visuals we could of like what the engineering spaces look like, both in their beginning stages and like when they became like at the height of their popularity. Being in Ontario made it a lot easier to find contacts. It just seemed like everyone we talked to who was like remotely anywhere near Waterloo or even around here, they knew someone that like worked there. So we were able to get like first-hand accounts, but eventually we were able to dig through a lot of effort finding images and a lot of documentation on what those workspaces were like. You're zooming in on these photos, these low-res photos, and trying to figure out what is this machine he's working on exactly, and what are they doing? A lot of circuit boards being created, and you start to figure out what they're actually doing and what machinery would be needed. And then we have to go and try to source that and recreate it, because we want it to be as factual and realistic as possible.
You know, sometimes you'll see a movie and it'll be like fake cereal or like ODOs instead of Cheerios, or they're playing generic video games that have clearly just been created by some art director, and you're watching and you're like, this is so pathetic. I knew that we could show these things based on my previous experience working with fair use and with these lawyers who are unbelievable. Chris Perez has done our legals for the last almost decade. He's the guy who basically creates a strategy with us as to how we can show the things that we want to create a cultural snapshot of the real world, which we learned to do really well under Vaughn and the Band the Show. And on this movie, we wanted to take right to the edge. And that's why, you know, we really are playing Command & Conquer, Red Alert, and Doom. You know, there's real magic cards and real comic books, and why I'm reading White Dwarf in the plane ride to New York. I wanted it to be real so that when I watched, I was like, oh yeah, that is what it was like. Like, I wanted to recreate the images of my childhood in a way where I could be proud of it, looking like the way I remembered it, and not needing to fake it, because that would give me the most sickening feeling of uncanny valley. And he just looks so stupid. Also, I think a lot of filmmakers just give in when they hear from a producer or a legal team that they can't do something, and they're just like, oh yeah, I guess I just don't know that I can't do that. But that's such nonsense, because oftentimes the difference between being allowed to do something and not being allowed to do something is just somebody needing to put in some work or doing something they've never done before. And it's a lot easier to say no, especially to young people, than it is to go out and pursue these difficult things.